Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the hidden mechanics behind our everyday purchasing decisions. Have you ever stopped to wonder why you buy exactly what you buy, or why you eventually just stop buying it? Well, we're going to explore a really foundational concept in microeconomics that explains all of this, the utility approach.
But before we get into the grand theory of demand, we really have to solve a fundamental mystery. How do we actually measure human satisfaction? Because let's be real, consumer behavior isn't just about dollars and cents, right? It's about that internal, psychological payoff we get when we consume something. Economists literally needed a way to quantify a feeling.
Okay, let's dive into this. Our starting point today is specifically Chapter 6, The Theory of Demand, the Utility Approach, with some excellent slides integrated by Carmen Christian. We're going to see exactly how economists mathematically approach human desire.
Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Simplifying consumer reality. 2. The concept of utility. 3. Cardinal versus ordinal utility. 4. Total and marginal utility. And finally, 5. Diminishing marginal utility.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Simplifying Consumer Reality, Abstracting the Everyday.
To really wrap our heads around demand theory, we've kind of got to peel back the onion of everyday life. Our daily reality as consumers is just incredibly complex. It's filled with endless variables, fleeting emotions, split-second decisions. So, to study this scientifically, theory always has to be a simplification of reality. Because of this, it's always going to be pretty abstract. Economists just have to make simplifying assumptions to make the math and the models actually work. Now, this abstraction might totally frustrate you if you confuse the theory with a literal perfect description of reality. Just keep in mind that while these concepts are highly theoretical, there are still incredibly powerful tools for understanding our choices.
Moving right along to Section 2, the concept of utility, the ultimate metric.
So, peeling back the next layer, we find the absolute core of demand theory, human satisfaction, or what economists call utility. Utility is simply defined as the degree of satisfaction that a household or consumer derives, or expects to derive, from the consumption of a good or service. This is the bedrock of everything we're looking at today. The entire purpose of consumer behavior is to maximize this utility. We're basically all just constantly trying to get the highest possible degree of satisfaction given our available means.
But here's the catch, right? Tastes and wants vary wildly amongst all of us. A specific good doesn't just have some unique, universally measurable utility that applies to everyone across the board. It's totally subjective. And this poses a fascinating challenge for economists trying to quantify personal experiences. How on earth do you build a math-based theory of demand when everyone's personal experience of satisfaction is completely different?
Which brings us to Section 3, Cardinal versus Ordinal Utility, two distinct approaches.
And this brilliantly illustrates how microeconomics handles that subjective measurement. Because utility is so personal, two distinct approaches were developed. On the left, we have the Chapter 6 utility approach. That's cardinal utility. This assumes that utility can actually be quantitatively measured. It assumes you can subjectively assign specific numerical values, playfully called utils, to the satisfaction you get from each unit of a good. On the right side, we have the Chapter 7 indifference approach, which is ordinal utility. This says, no way, you can't assign an exact number to satisfaction. Instead, you can only order or rank bundles of goods based on preference, first, second, third, etc. For our explainer today, we are strictly focusing on the cardinal approach. Just imagine subjectively assigning a hard number of utils to the last thing you bought. It instantly makes this abstract idea totally tangible. Okay, Section 4, Total and Marginal Utility, Tracking the Satisfaction Journey.
Now that we're firmly grounded in the cardinal approach, let's track how satisfaction actually flows. Marginal utility is the extra, or additional, utility that a consumer derives from consuming one additional unit of a good. I want you to focus intently on those words, extra and additional. That's the absolute key here. When you consume something sequentially, unit after unit, marginal utility isolates exactly how much satisfaction that single latest unit gave you.
Building directly on top of that, we have total utility. This is simply the cumulative sum of all those marginal utilities. So if you consume 3 units of something, your total utility is the satisfaction of the first unit plus the extra satisfaction of the second plus the extra satisfaction of the third. It's the big picture of your happiness.
And then there's disutility. This is, well, negative utility. It represents a bad experience, the physical discomfort, or just the pure regret of overconsumption.
When a good stops giving you satisfaction and actually starts taking it away, you have officially crossed over into disutility.
So, let's put it all together to see the whole sequential life cycle of satisfaction. Step 1. Total utility increases as long as marginal utility is positive. Even if that extra bit of satisfaction is tiny, as long as it's above 0, your overall total happiness is still growing. Step 2. Total utility peaks. It reaches an absolute maximum when marginal utility hits exactly 0. This is the exact moment you are fully satiated. You're done. One more unit does absolutely nothing for you. And step 3, total utility actually decreases when marginal utility goes negative. Disutility sets in. You pushed past your limit, and now consuming more is actively making you worse off.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, diminishing marginal utility, reaching your limit.
So the crucial point is this fundamental law that dictates exactly why we eventually stop consuming a good. The law of diminishing marginal utility states that the marginal utility of a good or service eventually declines as more of it is consumed during any given period. This is honestly as much a law of human nature as it is economic theory. The first unit, massive satisfaction. The second, a little less. The third, even less. The extra utility simply has to decline over time.
Now, get this. Here's a surprising historical fact from the text. This exact concept, the idea that satisfaction drops off with successive consumption, is also known as Gosson's first law, and it was established all the way back in 1854. No way, right? For over a century and a half, economists have been mathematically graphing exactly why we get tired of having too much of a good thing.
Which leaves us with a really fun final thought to ponder. The source text specifically brings up applying this theory to everyday food choices, like combinations of bread, meat, and rice. So I want to ask you, next time you sit down for a meal and choose a combination of bread, meat, and rice, what does your own utility curve look like? At what exact bite does your marginal utility hit 0? Try assigning utils to your next meal and see how a completely abstract theory from 1854 is literally driving your daily decisions. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.